Hey folks, I'm Melhorn. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 things that will help you catch more catfish as it turns cold. For a lot of you folks, wintertime means putting the boat away and putting away the fishing tackle because you can't fish. Not because it's too cold, but in a lot of places you guys are facing iced over waterways where fishing is pretty difficult without an auger to get through the ice. But for a lot of us, especially in the South and the Southeast, we are able to fish all year long, all winter, if we're crazy enough to get out there in the cold weather. Well, even for those of us that can fish all winter long, the fishing can be tough. It can be hard to find fish. And what I'm going to do is go over 5 things that you guys can keep in mind at different points during this cold winter period that may help you catch more catfish. Well, one of the first things you're going to hear from most people when you ask this question is you need to fish deep. Fish are going to be in the deep water. Coincidentally, it's the same answer that you get a lot of times in the summertime. And you're going to see some of these patterns are very similar for summer fishing and winter fishing, but we'll get to that later. You'll hear you got to fish deep, and there's some truth to that. The reason is that sometimes during certain weather patterns, the deeper water may be more stable. The fish, generally speaking, bait fish especially, don't like the big changes in water temperature drop. And that's mostly going to happen near the surface. These fish will tend to go deeper to an area that's stable, more comfortable for them. And this is where you're going to find the fish. So deep water is a good thing to keep in mind, but don't think you have to fish deep water all winter, because there are some times when shallower water will pay off. And that takes me to number 2, and that is fish shallow. Now, I know you're confused at this point. You're saying go fish deep, go fish shallow. Well, again, a lot of this depends on the weather. And there are times in cold weather when we will get a warm snap. We all know what happens when you have one of these Indian summer days to where all of a sudden you got 70, 75 degree weather. Well, that is when shallow water can pay off for you. That shallow water, especially if it's clear, is going to warm up quicker. It's going to get more light penetration. When that happens, some of the bait may move up shallow. Feeding fish, hungry fish are going to follow the bait. So this is not something that I would consider to work all winter long, but there are some time periods when it is the place to be. And I will tell you this too. I have been surprised by some people that have went fishing shallow in some extremely cold weather and caught fish, even when the water temperatures were into the 40s. Why are the fish there? Well, it's not for comfort, it's for food. And if for whatever reason, depending on the the science behind what's going on in your particular lake, and there is a reason for the bait fish to be in that shallow water feeding on the microorganisms that they feed on in the water, well, there could be a chance that the bigger fish are there too. So listen, if nothing else is working, go try shallow and see what the lake gives you. Now, one thing that produces fish for me fairly consistently all winter is fishing on deep water flats. And you may be asking yourself, what's a flat? Well, on a lake, between the bank and the old river channel is generally a flat area. Now, the upper reaches of some lakes and river systems, especially in the mountainous areas, won't have as much of a flat. But most lakes at some point, especially the lower reaches of the lake, are going to have these flats. Fish seem to be scattered through here for whatever reason, whether it's feeding on mussels, staging up for bait fish, they're just scattered out, something to do with the bottom. These areas seem to produce fish for me fairly consistently in the wintertime. I like drifting them. It's a very effective way to fish and cover these massive flats. Some of these things can be several miles long. You can anchor on them if you have a specific area, but for me personally, I think drifting and moving across the water is a much better way to cover these areas. The great thing for you guys that bank fish is a lot of times these areas you can hit from the bank. Obviously get you a Navionics app on your phone so you can see what the contours and stuff look like out there from where you're bank fishing, but it's a very effective method for you guys that are fishing from the bank. Another good tip for you guys that are fishing from the bank and guys that are fishing from the boat is to try downsizing your baits. It seems like early on in cold weather, the bigger baits really start to work and really start to produce. But as we get into some of the colder temperatures, the 40-degree water, it seems like those smaller baits will produce fish at a higher rate than some of the big baits. And I'm talking bigger fish, not just smaller fish. So that's a little thing for you guys that are bank fishing and also fishing off the boat to try. I try varying it up a little bit, not sure really what the reason is behind this, whether it's something to do with the metabolic rate of the fish at that point. They're not wanting to spend a lot of bodily energy processing a big piece of food. Who knows what the reason is, but it has been something I've done over the years that has helped me consistently produce fish in colder weather. And one last tip that works for you bank fishermen and guys in boats is when we get a weather change, a big temperature drop, a cold rain, a front coming through, a big weather change. A lot of times you will find these fish tight to structure, whether that be points, humps, ledges. These fish almost go into a hunker down mode, and this is almost like we're gonna rest, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna put our backs against the wall, and we're gonna just keep an eye out and not do anything for a while. If you're fishing on the bank, some of these places you can hit from the bank, some of these areas you can fish, so it's a good way for you guys to be able to fish for some fish. It's a waiting game, generally speaking, in these scenarios. It is not hot and heavy, fast and furious action, whether you're in a boat or fishing on the bank. So when you get those weather changes, any of those steep underwater contour changes are probably going to produce more fish than areas like those deep water flats and the backs of the creeks. Well, folks, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Here are a couple more videos that I think you're going to like. I'd watch that one and then that one. No, do that one first and then that one. I don't know. Just watch them both. They're both good.